Like everyone in New York City, the Rangers were devastated by the events of September 11th. In the aftermath of that tragic day, everyone was looking for ways to pitch in. For the Rangers, that opportunity came on October 7th, their first home game at the Garden.
September 11th, here in New York, it was a really tragic day, and humbling in a lot of ways.
We were actually scheduled to have our training camp in Chelsea Piers, and we were going to stay down at the Marriott at the World Trade Centers as a team and hold our pre-fitness testing down there in the basements and in the ballrooms, and the dressing rooms were too small. We ended up canceling the Marriott Hotel, so that was a little sobering, and it was a tough time for everybody.
Nearly every person in the city had a friend or loved one that they couldn't contact that awful morning. For the Rangers' Brian Leach, it was a college friend named John Murray, who worked for Cantor Fitzgerald in the World Trade Center.
So our focus was on, trying to figure out which tower he was in, and, we were talking to his wife and trying to get in touch with her, and she hadn't heard anything, and then the next plane hit, and so it was tough on a personal level. We were each other's best friends. I was in their wedding, and they just had their first baby just a little bit after we had our first baby, and we were all going through that next stage of our lives all together as a group, and as things played out, we certainly get the bad news that there are not really any survivors.
I remember going down to the site with some of the guys from the team and supporting some of the firefighters and police officers that are down there trying to recover bodies, and the firemen coming in after 18 straight hours or 20 straight hours, completely covered in ashes and cement, and then everybody looking to see whether they had found somebody or not, and just the absolute distress on everybody's faces. What images I think we'll never forget.
In the aftermath of 9/11, symbols of New York City took on a greater significance than ever before.
Tonight, it's the New York Rangers 2001 NHL season home opener.
On October 7th, 2001, the Rangers held their home opener at Madison Square Garden. But before the puck was dropped, the team paid tribute to those who lost their lives in the terrorist attacks.
Tonight, more than at any time in our lives, we are proud to be New Yorkers.
Most Ranger game nights, there's only one thing that the fans are interested in. It's winning that game. And that night, one of the few times when that wasn't what it was all about. That was about, we're New York. It says New York on our shirt. It's not just Rangers.
Here tonight, as our special guests and honorary members of our team, are representatives from the New York City Police and Fire Department hockey teams.
Screaming and yelling, applauding, in my eyes, what would be a thank you for all of the FDNY and firefighters everywhere for what we went through and what we were doing at the time. And you have to remember, it's a bittersweet experience. The most horrific tragedy in America had brought us there that night.
In one of the most symbolic gestures of the evening, Mark Messier, who led the Rangers for so many years, received the helmet of the FDNY's Chief of Rescue Operations, Ray Downey, who stood tall for the entire city of New York before losing his life on September 11th.
He didn't just put on, the fire chief hat and play the role. He knew the guy. He loved the guy. And that was Mark, and they loved him.
He puts that helmet on as if, he's and we are all fighting with these guys.
You just can't express what that means to me personally. That somebody would think enough about me to do that. I mean, how do you explain that, or how do you talk about that? It's just overwhelming.
Just on behalf of the players and the entire Ranger organization, we'd like to express our deepest sympathies to the family and friends that were lost. We'd also like to express our deep appreciation for all the firefighters, the police department, the rescue workers, and all the volunteers who helped out so heroically.
So a lot of those people were Ranger fans that were lost. I know the fire department and the police department are full of Ranger fans. And I know there are a lot of people in those buildings that work there that were big Ranger fans.
We'd like to dedicate this season to all of you and all the heroes. Thank you.
After the emotional ceremony that touched all who were there, Brian Leach paid a personal tribute to a lost friend by scoring the game-winning goal in overtime.
Scored that goal, it wouldn't have been the same thing. If a Californian had scored the goal, it wouldn't have been the same thing. This was the New Yorker on the Rangers who scored that goal. It was a pretty special moment.
Here at Madison Square Garden, it caps off a very, very emotional evening here.
It was a fitting end to an emotional game, but at the same time, the game was never about winning or losing.
When you come back for that first game and there's a lot of talking, when is it okay to resume life? Nobody has a great answer for that, but I think one of the things that you have to think about in these situations is it's important to do that. And I think that was a very proud moment at the Garden, a very powerful one.
It just seemed to be the right thing to do, is to continue on and try to create some kind of diversion from the feelings that were going on with everybody, whether you had lost loved ones, family members, whatever. Everybody was affected in a way that nobody will ever forget.